Hey guys, tonight I'm going to do a video on how I reload 223 Remington. I use it for match grade service rifle competition. That's all I use it for. I don't take it hunting. So I only use the one type of powder, the one type of primer, the one type of projectile. No other variables. I know what works on my rifle. I've got a good load set out. That's all I do. I just rinse and repeat. So first of all, what equipment we got? Lee breech lock single stage press. This is the single stage that uses the quick change bushings, so it's really easy. Don't have to readjust your dies or nothing. You're going to need your dies, of course. This is just a 3-piece kit. It's got your collet neck sizer, full length sizer, and your bullet seating die, and of course your shell holder, which we'll put in the press now. Just plunk it in like that. And then we'll put our small primer arm into the press, which we will need. You're also going to need scales to measure your powder weight, and a powder thrower, powder dispenser. You can buy those really expensive electronic scales, which are pretty good, but I just use that because I'm a tight ass. Then consumables, going to need your brass. This is all once fired out of my rifle, so I'm just going to neck size it, reprime it, fill it up with powder, put the projectile in. I don't crimp the projectile, I don't need to. Primers, powder, AR-2208, this is empty. What's left of it is in the powder thrower here. I've got another 4 kilos sitting in the cupboard. And then my projectiles, 77 grain Sierra Match Kings. I run a 1 8 twist barrel, so these perform stupidly good in it. Rightio, let's get started. Rightio, first step we're going to do is resize our case necks and take the old primer out and put a new primer in, all in the one motion. Now if I zoom in here, basically case sits in the shell holder here. Sorry, it's a bit out of the way. Shell holder goes up, the neck gets sized, and there's a decapping pin inside here, pushes the old primer out through here, and then we'll slit a new primer in this little arm. Then as you watch, it goes down, and that will poke up and put the new primer into the case. And then we've done effectively 3 steps in a very quick motion. Just to show here, have a case in, take the old primer out and resize the neck, put a primer in, take her up, push it down, and there we go. New case, primed and sized, ready to go. Then we just rinse and repeat that for however many cases we're doing. In this case tonight, I'm doing 50 rounds, so I'll do another one as a demo. Up, neck gets sized, old primer out, new primer in the arm. Oof, seeks, you can feel it. New primer in, and it's sized. Just rinse and repeat that process for all the brass you have at once. Rightio, now our second step, really, second major step, is to get our powder going. So I'm using a Lee Perfect Powder Measure, works pretty good for AR-2208. Sometimes throws a little under, a little over, but generally it's pretty on. But I measure every single charge as a precaution either way. These are the Lee balance beam scales. Have to have them zeroed every time, so as you can see I've got this little ball at 0 and the grains meter at 0.0. It measures to 1/10 of a grain, and then all we do is we set the ball 10, 20. Now for this load I'm using 22.5 grains. 22.5, and all we have to do is throw our powder into this pan, and if we have 22.5 grains, the needle will be level. We'll zoom in here just so you can sort of see how that measures to 22.5 if it focuses. Don't think it's going to. I'll bugger it. Rightio. I have a powder in the pan. Balances beam is level. It is about half a bee's dick off being level, but that is close enough for my purposes, especially with this scale. It's not the most accurate, but it's plenty accurate enough. So I'll take our powder into our funnel and dump it down the case. We'll take another load, place it on the scale, wait for it to steady, and I've got the fan off, so it is really fucking hot now. I am sweating like a pedophile in a preschool. It is fucking hot and humid. Balance beam is level. Take our powder off, throw it in. I'll show it one more time just for shits and giggles. Got our powder in there, as you can see. So stick powder, for those of you who don't know, AR2208 is basically exactly the same as Varget, Hodgdon and ADI, effectively the same company. Balance beams level, as I said, for a cheap powder measure, this thing is pretty good for AR2208. Rightio, we'll take that and we'll dump it in our case. And I've just made a fuck up. I've just poured it back into a case that I've already filled. So now that is overfilled. So we'll take that, pour it all out, because I wasn't paying attention. Rightio, after that little fuck up with that double charge, I emptied it back out into the powder hopper and refilled that case. Got them all filled up. They all measure the same weight or very close to, so much so that it won't make a difference. Next step now, so we've got a case, neck resized, deprimed, new primer, and a powder charge in them. Next step is the final step, and that is bullet seating. Using these 77 grain Sierra Match Kings. Consult your load data for both powder charging and your bullet seating depth for your overall length. Now, I use AR-15 magazines using Magpul PMags. These are fucking brilliant, by the way, if you've got an AR platform or something that takes AR magazines. Now, I'm not seating to an overall length per se. I am seating so that they fit in the magazine, and they barely fit, so that they can sit down in the magazine when the follower is pressed with more rounds on top. I'll show that very shortly. Got my bullet seating die in. It's wound out a little bit from where I had last time. That way I just have to go down a smidge, very small amount, to get it to where I need it to go. Rightio, first thing we'll do, we'll take a case, put it into the shell holder, take a bullet or projectile, sit it on there, run it up, push down, and we'll just simply see if it fits into the magazine. So we'll clip it down, and it's a little bit off. I'll show you how I mean. So then, it's a little bit off. All we'll do, place it back into the shell holder, turn the knob down just a tiny bit, and we just keep doing this until it fits, and it'll pretty much stay there for the rest of them. A little bit more. Oh, getting there. Now, when you're moving it a tiny bit to seat for magazine length, you may not feel any difference, but it does make a tiny bit of difference. Now, I am only turning that bullet seating depth adjuster tiny amounts. They really are not much. And you cheeky little fuck, it's still off. Basically, just keep doing this till we get one that fits. I would go a little bit more each time, but I don't want to seat them too far in, because then I basically have to stick it in a bullet puller, pull it, and then wind it back out a tiny bit. I'd rather go too little than too much in terms of bullet seating depth. And that is pretty much it. Go just a smidge more just for clearance. See how that is. There we go, we got it. So, show you here. It barely fits. So if we push down on it, push down on the case, it goes into the magazine. The tip of the bullet actually barely scrapes the side of the plastic here. It's not going to hurt it either way, but that's it. That's my bullet seating depth done. That cartridge I'll go grab a box for to put them in. Rightio, we have a cartridge box specifically made for 223. We'll set them in there nice and pretty. Occasionally I will also test some of these rounds to make sure they fit. So again, on it up, completed cartridge done. Chuck her in the mag, press it down, yep, follower goes down, simple as. Grab another bullet, run it up, give her a whirl. That's actually a little bit not enough, because not all these projectiles, despite being match grade, are going to be the exact overall length. They will be beesticks differently, so I'll just set the overall length to be a little bit lower. There we go. That should be right. And then we just repeat that process for every single piece of brass that we're loading tonight. That's all I do for 223. Pretty basic. Very cheap, I know. I will admit I'm a tight ass. I do it cheaply, but I've never had a malfunction or catastrophic failure, as long as you keep your wits about you. Like with that overcharging, I realised, because it overfilled the case. Just got to pay attention to what you're doing, know what you're doing, watch a few videos on YouTube. You'll soon learn what is bullshit, what isn't, what information to take with a grain of salt, what information you can rely on. That's how I do 223. I follow the exact same process for 308. Only difference is I use 308 brass, 308 dies, large rifle primers, higher charge of powder, and obviously 308 projectiles. Pretty simple. It's a fairly cheap way to get into reloading. Once you can in the press and all that, yeah, not much else to add.